It's a great honor to be here, and I'm so pleased that God uses people like me. Such a joy to be here. I guess when you've gone through the valley, the mountaintop looks even more spectacular than before. God has allowed me to go to South Sudan again, and I really enjoyed this trip. It was so encouraging to be able to see life from a very different perspective. And of course, a lot of you already know that Sudan has now split into two countries about 6 years ago. The Muslims in the north and now South Sudan with the non-Muslims. You can see down at the very bottom there in the blue, Pajok is the town that we've been working in. Juba is the capital. Then above Juba you see Bor. There on the right is Ethiopia, and I wish we could talk a lot more about what's going on there. It's really exciting. Some of you are familiar with David Thotemer. Please keep up with his Facebook. God is doing so many exciting things, and we're working together with 20 evangelists trained by Tyrone Minear. They're in Gambela. They're South Sudanese refugees. And in Kenya, we also have another refugee camp, Kakuma. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of South Sudanese refugees. And then in Uganda, Kitiandongo refugee camp. And so much going on. Just a little bit of a history. In 1996, the Churches of Christ Around the World book said that there is no known work of the Church of Christ. In 97, Isaiah Jackson graduated from Sunset and began to preach beginning in 98 in the Kitiandongo refugee camp in Uganda, where his family was at that time. We raised support for Isaiah, and Woodward Park in Fresno, California took over the oversight, and John Ed Clark, one of the elders, a long-time missionary from Ethiopia, began to work there. Isaiah went and started teaching and preaching and preaching and preaching, and for the first month we didn't hear much of any news, and the second month we didn't hear much of any news, and the third month, and then all of a sudden he began to say things are starting to happen, and things started to happen. God began to give increase like unbelievable. And that increase just kept multiplying, literally multiplying. Because not only did he preach and teach, but he trained those he converted, who also then went on and preached in different places. And so hundreds and hundreds of people were being baptized into Christ, and after 1 year of being there, they celebrated with 400 attending their first year celebration. Some were skeptical of those numbers. John Ed Clark reported over 3,500 have been baptized, and of course I don't know. But they went and started doing some research and personally witnessed 980 in the assemblies in different places. And these are some of the churches, both in South Sudan and in the refugee camps. Nice air-conditioned buildings, $1,500 total to build. And just amazing. That's what we need to go back to right there. John Ed Clark's health didn't continue well, and his wife, and they asked the church in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, to take over the oversight, and Don Humphrey began to work with the Sudan project. You can see the website there to keep up to date on the goings on with the work there. It's really, really exciting. By the way, you can get their newsletter, and I can't wait. It's one of those newsletters, I can't wait to see what's happening next, So, but it's really exciting to be a part of it. But the church, this is the building that they were meeting in when I went there in 2012 to visit. Don is, one thing that he does really well is raises support and does this newsletter and builds buildings. And he has built an amazing compound there. It is on the far right there, you can see the South Sudan Bible School building. It can sleep 20. We're hoping to expand that again even more now. And move our classes into the auditorium. On the far left there is the church building. And then at the back is the clinic. And soon, to the left of this compound, we're planning to build some more things here. The clinic is just incredible. I wish you could see it for yourself and see the people. We'll look at a few more pictures later. But we've now graduated 125 evangelists from our Level 1 series. Level 1 is a 3.5-month, very much sunset-like curriculum and so forth. Most of these guys have had very little opportunity to have much of any education, and so we have to go pretty slow. But there's Eric on the top left. He's the director of the school. Isaiah Jackson, one of my favorite brothers. I just love this guy to pieces. Elias also, another one of the teachers, and he's just a joy to be around. Love this brother. John Jock is the doctor. I call him Dr. Jock or Dr. Spock one. But he's actually like a nurse practitioner or something like that. But, when a surgery is a life and death matter, he just does it. I mean, that's all they've got, So, in 2012, I found a guy who had loaned us his battery out of his car so we could print lessons for the students to be able to go and teach what they had learned. And so that was quite a need, and this time I took everything to make that work. Not too long ago, the chief and the former chief is the real tall guy there, who actually gave the land to the church, and then the guy with the cane is the present chief of Pajok, and they're saying, we want you to build us a maternity ward. 1 out of 10 women die in childbirth. 1 out of 7 babies die at birth. It's amazing. War ended in about 6 years ago, gaining independence for South Sudan. But war quickly sprang up again, kind of a tribal war, the tribe of the president against the tribe of the vice president. Supposedly, that's just what they say. I don't know if that's really true, but that's what they say. And so driven a lot of the people back out of South Sudan into refugee camps again, and so the Kitiandongo refugee camp is very full, and Kakuma in Kenya, and in Gambela refugee camp in Ethiopia. And they all have hundreds of thousands of South Sudanese in them. We now have, it says 16, but we now have 25 evangelists that the Sudan Project is supporting to evangelize in these refugee camps. Actually, there's a bunch of refugee camps. These are only the main ones. And so this is what Isaiah had done. Of course, the people have no land. They have no nothing. They have just a bunch of time. And so God is using those opportunities. Construction continues. The construction of a new clinic and maternity ward is just now beginning. We met with the contractor and so forth while we were there. Also, some living quarters for some of the teachers will begin very soon as well. When we arrived, immediately went to Pajok and did a church leaders workshop to help them be able to deal with such a massive amount, thousands of converts. How do you keep these people strong and growing? And so we spent 2 days working together with a good number of evangelists. 10 o'clock is breakfast time, a piece of bread and some African tea, milk with some tea in it. And generally speaking, the highfalutin chief-type bigwigs have their own separate breakfast and dinner and et cetera, et cetera. And so here we are, us highfalutin people. That's the way Africans do it, I tell you. It's just... we also distributed a bunch of solar players. I took 60 with me, and it's such a joy to be able to see these guys when they realize what they're getting, you know. And they just can't believe it's free. I can take it home with me, you know. And Andrew is one of the early converts from Isaiah Jackson back in the Kidiandongo refugee camp, and soon to become one of the teachers in the school. Just an excellent brother. John Ochin as well, much newer convert, but wow, he is a full-time evangelist and just an excellent brother. So exciting. Sisto as well, he's actually the preacher right now for the bigger congregation there in Pajok. And lots of just beautiful brothers that... I was downtown Pajok right there, right, I guess you'd say that's the downtown square or something like that. And here come a brother listening to his solar player. I thought that was pretty unique, so I had to take his picture. Anyway, this is our brother Edward, and he's always there, ready to jump in and do whatever is needed. He's very willing and energetic. While we were there as well, we were able to graduate our first level 3 studies. And so there's Don giving a presentation, and there's the number of the people that were there. There were 71 at the seminar and solar player distribution. We had only 60 solar players, so we had to be a little careful. But it's very, very moving to be able to be there for this 14 men graduating from level 3, and you have to be pretty intelligent and pretty on the ball to be able to graduate from level 3 and productive. All of these 14 men are excellent men, just beautiful people. And they have a heart for evangelism and for church planning, so it's really exciting. Spent a good bit of time after that training about that evening, and then all morning the next morning. talking about how do you build a solar panel, but then how do you support yourself using that solar panel? And they just absolutely ate it up, They loved it. And so we spent a good bit of time learning how to put this stuff to good use and open a little shack that charges cell phones. And at the same time you're charging their cell phone, you offer them a World Bible School course. By the way, South Sudan Bible School has their own Bible correspondence course that they hand deliver and so forth. So here's Don meeting with the medical staff, John Jock, and a couple of nurses building solar panels. And this, they just absolutely love this. Of course, Speedy's the chief solar panel person. He kind of gets into this stuff. I asked Don if he'd buy me a pretty heavy-duty car battery, and he bought a tractor battery, about twice the size. But of course, we use that battery to solder all morning for from 9 till about 1 in the afternoon, straight, soldering with a battery. 2 soldering irons go on at once, a 110 one and a 220 one. And success, yay, 14.8 volts, and man, we're on the... We also built this little gospel presenter, I call it, and it contains the battery. We had to cut big holes in the sides because the battery was a little bit bigger than we were expecting. But it contains the amplifier and the speakers and also the projector. So that was pretty exciting. The church there has voluntarily opened a school for the poor people there, and they meet and teach them how to read and write, and basically this is the only education they will ever have an opportunity to get. And so these are the poor people of the community, and the church does this voluntarily and feeds them. So that's just, isn't that exciting? The church doing that on their own, all of their own initiative and support, and I just love it. I think it's great. So the clinic is just like running over. Every time I've been there, there's been lines of people anywhere they can find shade to get out of the sun or rain. They'll be lined up. So this is Simon, the lab technician, and he's a good brother as well. He just absolutely loves to be able to look into his microscope and tell you exactly what this person has. He just loves what he does. So, of course, there's not enough beds, and some of the beds are on the floor, and we just do the best we can. Super preacher right there. After the Sunday worship assembly, they always have this big long line of people coming. Every person greets every person, and they make this big circle. Gave out several computers thanks to you, several students, and especially Richard Cravey. And this is not only the way we communicate with them, they now can use the internet, but it's the way they have humongous libraries. They had none before. Now they have access to, oh man, they just absolutely love it. There's Isaiah. I gave him a new computer. His is broke down. And John Ochin. So, and these old computer bags people throw away are absolute treasures for them. So, I just want to show you a little bit of the daily, real life in the village. Women, don't ever complain again. The women do the work, and I mean hard work. They go out and scrounge up the firewood and do the laundry and sell the goods. The roads are much improved, much improved. It used to take a day to drive from, I guess, Juba to Pajok. Now it takes 3.5 hours, except when you have to stop and wait for a demining problem. There's a demining crew right there on the road, and we had to stop right there. That sign says demining, and we had to stop and wait for a couple of hours. Fresh meat. Okay, I don't know how fresh, but meat, goat meat, sweet hot Speedy. There it is. And so they do have some grocery stores. It was nothing like this 3 years ago. I'm very impressed. Transportation is whatever you can find. This is in Juba, right as we are getting into Juba, the capital. You better watch out. Huge shortage of fuel, and lines and lines and lines all over town, waiting at the gas station that's chained off, it's closed down, waiting for a truck to come. Roads are not always great. Okay, they're really not roads, but the pathway is not always great. We arrived at this farm where we were scheduled to preach the gospel, and one family lived in that hut, one family lived in this hut. There's the great-grandfather in the red shirt, and then the grandfather in the blue shirt, and the farmhouse in the background. Very interesting, just interesting people. By the way, that last man was baptized by Isaiah in Kidiandongo refugee camp years ago. This is the father of this family that we were. And this man was also baptized by Isaiah in Kidiandongo refugee camp. There's his wife. A bunch of the kids and grandkids. There's the little gospel presenter waiting for it to get dark enough to show the Jesus film. Of course, they had been out in the field all day long and very, very tired. They've been harvesting the sesame seed. And while we preached to them, they were going through each little head of grain, getting it ready to dry, and grandmother cooking supper while we preach. Women and kids always sit on mats on the ground. Sometimes the men do too. Started raining a little bit the third night. So they invited us to come in and get out of the rain. It's kind of squishy in there, but it was drier. And then God brought forth some fruit. And we had gone there with hope and plan to plant a new church. And so this new church began, and the next Sunday, a couple of days later, Isaiah Jackson preached the first sermon in this brand new congregation. Isn't it exciting? You can go to a place and spend a week and plant a new church. That is so exciting. So, Loggy Church of Christ. Loggy West is the name of the church. Loggy West Church of Christ in Pajok. Going back. Magui is another town where there's a church. Has an evangelist there. The clinic does have some solar power. Tritt was very generous to give some of these external hard drives to key men to be able to share the high quality video courses of SIBI with these people. It was such a joy, including Bohr, I told you a little bit about earlier. Our brothers Chuck Dennis on the left and Dennis Cady on the right from Wichita Falls. They've retired from their work and from the eldership and from and started their own. It's a boarding school, a vocational boarding school, where Bible is one of the required classes, and they baptize almost everybody that goes through. And these are good, amazing people that they're teaching and baptizing. So we've developed a micro-lending program to be able to help people get a start. The last night, everybody wanted to see this Jesus film in their own language, the Acholi language, which I had ordered before I left. And the people in the village of Pajok saw around, it was on the inside of the hotel where we were. And so people were saying, why are y'all hiding back here? We want to see it too, So the crowd kept growing and growing, even though they weren't supposed to be coming into the hotel compound, but they didn't seem to care. They were coming in anyway. This is actually Isaiah's house in Juba, where the church in Juba meets. I wish I could show a little bit more about that. Here's a couple of the people there, the church in Juba, the capital. Gave out some more solar players and met with the church leaders there. I don't know what your plans are. I just want to say I'm hooked on receptivity, just personally. And once I find it, I just can't hardly let go. I get to see God doing things that I can't believe it. It's just so exciting. Anyway, thanks so much for listening.